When it comes to off-roading, there's no better vehicle than the Jeep Wrangler. These things can tackle the toughest terrain, they can run over anything you throw at it, and Jeep even makes them trail rated, which means they do all kinds of testing inside and out. It can run through water, streams, ponds. These are some of the most capable off-roading superstars ever built. But the question that I have is, if I don't do any off-roading, which I don't want to do anyway, can I live with one of these on a day-to-day basis? So in this video, I'll answer important questions like, how do I feel about the immense amount of plastic in this car? How do I feel about its loose handling? And most importantly, can I hit curbs in this car all day, every day? That and more, so let's find out. There's a decent amount of plastic in this car, but that's not too surprising because Jeep's focus is not to create a luxury SUV. This is a true off-roader, and I will say that given the amount of plastic in here, Jeep's done a decent job of not making it bottom of the barrel. It's nothing amazing either. It's about middle of the road, so it's just fine. But still, everything in here is so far improved from the older Jeeps. As you get situated to drive, the one thing that is different about the Jeep than most other cars is it's a very vertical seating position. You can see that it's basically like sitting in a chair. My legs are almost at 90 degrees. So you're in a normal chair with the steering wheel and the windshield is almost vertical as well. So that's an interesting driving experience, and you can't really lower anything anymore. Normally, I like to lower myself to make it feel a little more car-like even when I'm in an SUV, but not in this one. In the Wrangler, you're seated pretty much straight up. I really like the visual here on the dash with the way it's laid out. The analog gauges are nice, combined with the digital display. A couple things about off-roading with pitch and roll and drivetrain. The center display is actually designed really nicely, better than what I would have expected in the Jeep Wrangler. It's got the Uconnect system with all of the apps. You have a compass app in here, all of your normal controls and settings, things like that. The backup cam has really nice resolution, very crisp. And then the climate control you can change through here, but you also have your actual buttons. And I think this whole climate control area and all the dials and knobs are nicely designed. So this part I'm impressed with. In a daily driver, a key consideration for me would be passengers in the back seat. And in this Wrangler, it's actually comfortable back here because this seat is pushed all the way back. I have long legs and there's still some leg room. And because of the boxy nature and design of the Wrangler, there's a lot of room and airiness inside. And especially these roofs, they come off. So when they come off, I'm sure everybody in the vehicle can enjoy the weather and have a good time. Those are things that are unique to the Wrangler, so I think passengers in the Jeep would have a lot of fun. So this 2021 Jeep Unlimited is completely livable. I like the design of everything. I like the layout, the digital dash and the infotainment. All of it works pretty well. So no complaints from a daily driver perspective. And this is not the top of the line. You could obviously get a much more optioned out Jeep. But this one also is reasonably priced, especially if you look at a used one, right around $40,000 for this kind of a Jeep. My wife used to own a Jeep, and she tells me that the best part about having a Jeep was that she could hit the curbs, no problem, no damage to anything. So time for that all-important curb test. Let's do this. Guess what? She's right. It's awesome to not have to worry about curbing your vehicle and just stop whenever the curb tells you to. This is awesome. So a few things that I'm looking for when I'm driving this car are handling, what's the ride comfort like, how is the overall interior levels of quietness, what's the gas mileage, what's the livability. So if this is going to be a daily driver commuter, the handling is my biggest complaint because it's not very predictable or precise. In fact, it's the exact opposite of what you'd get in a sports car, where you know exactly what direction it's going in. It's very precise, predictable handling. In this one, it's the exact opposite. Like, you could turn the wheel around from side to side, like move it. There's a lot of play in the wheel. You could move it quite a bit, and the car just keeps going straight. So if you had to take some sort of evasive action on the highway going at high speeds, then you're just not gonna know how much input to give the wheel and where the car's gonna go. So it just causes some stress, and it's something that you have to be aware of. And then on top of that, there's a lot of body roll as you're going around turns and curves. So it's not like you can whip this thing around. You have to be extra careful and cautious when driving it. You feel the size of the car, it's big, it's hefty. So all those things you have to be aware of and just drive it much more cautiously than you would most other cars or SUVs. And then taking this on a road trip, over 50 or 60 miles an hour, there's a lot of wind rush noise that comes in. It gets pretty loud. Around town at slower speeds, not as big of an issue, but when you're going fast on the freeway, it's gonna get loud. And then add to that the handling uncertainty, and it's just not a very pleasant experience. Even though this 2021 Jeep is far better than previous generations, this Jeep is clearly optimized for off-roading. So for daily driving, a lot of compromises have to be made. And so that's what you're feeling when you drive the Wrangler. The good news is that the air conditioning works really well and it's decently comfortable. I like the seats, lots of visibility. So one consideration is the gas mileage on this thing. Been averaging about 16.4 miles per gallon, which is pretty low. But I expected that because it's a Jeep, boxy design, not really aerodynamic, and the engine is big, 3.6 liter V6. So optimized for off-roading capabilities, not so much for fuel, for gas mileage. And then the power output of the 3.6 liter V6 is 285 horsepower. It's right around adequate. I could have used more power, but Jeep does have more powerful engine options. I would have loved to have the 392 with the V8, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That would be something else. You'll be pleased to learn that I've come up with a new term, the curb hitability quotient. Curb hitability quotient aside, if you need a daily driver and you don't want to do any off-roading, then there's better vehicles than the Wrangler, just because the Wrangler doesn't ride as well, doesn't handle as well. It's not good for highways and freeways. You could do far better. But if you want to go off-roading and have a daily driver in one, then the Wrangler is the winner. You can't really find a better off-roading vehicle than the Wrangler. But I can't really blame you if you did want a Wrangler, even if you have no intention of off-roading and just need it to drive from point A to point B, because look at it, it's just such a cool looking vehicle. Everybody loves it. The community around this is awesome. So you can't really go wrong at the end of the day by owning one of these.